Hello, my name is Brooklyn Tony, and this is the NSK-X. It is a two-stage flywheeler with select fire and a solenoid pusher. It uses 130 motors, Nightingale compatible flywheels, either Nightingale from worker flywheels or Band Blaster's Baby Banshee flywheels, which should give you better FPS. It is 3S because of the solenoid that is 12 volts. With the battery tray up here, and it has a collapsing stock which uses 1/8 inch aluminum bars. This design has been in the works for a while now. It uses the base, the entire lower receiver is based, well, it is from the NSK-1K. I designed this a bit ago, last year, and wasn't quite satisfied with how it turned out. The slimness was a main great part of the blaster, but it was just kind of awkward to handle. It's really short, but there's no stock because it's kind of short for a stock, and also because at the time I wasn't experienced enough to design a stock myself. So there was a version of this back piece that had an N-strike stock attachment point, but that was kind of just a stopgap measure. Only one rail at the top, and it only hit 110 FPS because it's a single stage Nightingale flywheeler. Wasn't the best, but it pioneered the new all relay select fire system. This system uses no control boards to do the select fire. In single shot or semi-auto mode, your trigger is hooked directly up to the solenoid inside, which gives you semi-auto. But in full auto, it uses, and I'm using the NSK-1K because it's easier to take this thing apart, especially in the back half, uses a flasher relay. This thing here that cycles or pulses the 12 volts on and off, which gives you your full auto. Some of the gripes about this thing was that, well, from others, it was very slow on full auto, but that has been fixed by changing out the capacitor in that relay to something that has a lower capacitance, which makes it fire a lot faster. It has a 100 microfarad capacitor stock, but if you change that to a 47 microfarad capacitor, you get double the FPS, or sorry, darts per second. Your rate of fire doubles. That thing fires at about 3 darts per second. This thing, with its one 10-cent part of the capacitor swapped into that flasher relay, goes at about 6.5 darts per second. Of course, well, this thing is not without its caveats. It is still kind of small, and you will need a very high discharge 3S LiPo, which goes in here, as I can show you. This is the latch, and you just pull battery door off. Battery goes in there. It has a bigger battery tray than the NSK-1K, but the NSK-X, well, it's longer. But that, to me, is better ergonomically. Of course, now you get 4 rails, 4 Picatinny rails. You can mount anything on it. Just like the NSK-1K, this blaster design was prioritized, well, the slimness of the blaster. It is only about 60 millimeters thick, which is very slim compared to most flywheelers with its bulge. Comparable performance flywheelers like Stripes, which isn't really standard anymore to see, but Griffins, you get the point. But also to be low hardware. There's nothing specialized hardware in this, well, except I guess for the stock bars, but you can cut those at home, and this is just 1/8 inch aluminum bar you can get at like Home Depot or Lowe's or any of your supply or home improvement stores. Everything else on this blaster is metric socket head and ball head cap screws. Now, you're not screwing directly into the plastic. There are brass heat set inserts pretty much throughout this whole thing holding it together, but other than that, there's only a few springs which are also available. I specifically use springs you can find at Home Depot and give you dimensions in the build guide, which is linked on the Printables page for this blaster. There's only like 4 springs, 1 for the trigger, 1 for the magazine detent, and 2, 1 on each side for the stock latch, which holds it open. But overall, this is pretty low hardware. Even the relays inside. Another con about the NSP1K was that you needed a MOSFET because of the 1 amp rev switch to run the flywheel motors. Well, not anymore. You can still do that. However, inside up here there is a spot for automotive relay that takes over that function from the MOSFET. So now you don't even need to find that MOSFET. It is all relays. The rev, the firing, full auto. Nothing is hard to find to build this blaster. I wouldn't say it is easy to assemble. It is not as easy to assemble as the NSP1K. The NSK-X is a lot more complex internally. You have more motors, you have more flywheels. But overall, because it shares this entire bottom half, including all the wiring down here pretty much, with the NSP1K, technically if you own one of these, you can just swap the top receiver portion out to the NSK-X's, and you will have an NSK-X. I designed the system modularly, kind of on purpose, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of lazy. Now let's talk about the performance, compatibility, and all that stuff. Well, of course it is Talon compatible. However, I have found that at the high rate of fire of 6.5, which isn't really that high, darts per second, it fits these 18-rounder mags. Of course, it fits any Talon compatible mag, Tachis, etc., etc., etc. But these 18-round mags at this rate of fire, the spring in these are not strong enough to feed the darts up reliably, so in full auto it just kind of doesn't work. It fires at, well, it fires, of course, short darts. These Worker Gen 3s have been getting kind of chewed up in this thing, but that's just the nature of such high crush micro flywheelers. It doesn't seem to overheat. I've never had in my testing any issues with it overheat or anything, and this thing is pretty much all out of PLA. I do suggest, since this is more high performance, that you should print the cage inside, the flywheel cage, out of PETG. PLA probably should stand up, but I'm not sure if you run it for an extended period of time. There's not much room inside the blaster between the shell and the motors and the cage. Actually, the cage is secured right here by these 2 screws on each side to the shell. So the shell does kind of get warm over here where the flywheels are, but I haven't had any melting problems, and neither have any of the other beta testers for this blaster. That is another thing that I've actually had as a first for this blaster. I've had other people actually help me develop and test it before getting released. Of course, it is going to be free to print and all of that, but it is something different than, I think, most other blasters on the market, or just that you're able to print. Well, I guess you do want to see it firing, so, well, we'll start off in semi first. Let me just change the camera angle. I have these iron sights on it, which are, I can't really get the good angle on them, but they're decent enough. But semi first. And there goes a dead dart. As I was saying, it does seemingly decapitate certain worker Gen 3s, although my climate is pretty bad with the humidity and all, so your mileage may vary. Sorry about the background noise. Still in semi. This has been getting about 150 plus FPS, as stated on the Printables page. I guess you also want to see the improved rate of fire in full auto. Yeah, that's pretty fast. Overall, I think I have done, darts, decently well with designing the NSK-X, though I have been a bit lazy by reusing the entire lower receiver, including the magwell and all that, and a lot of the top part, although heavily redesigned. I think this is one of the, well, it's the third, but is the best blaster I've designed to date. It's a lot of stuff that's new to me, including just collapsing stocks and using aluminum bars in general. But this is my first high FPS flywheeler that is meant to be ergonomic, easy-ish to build, relatively cheap to build, and can get you decent performance of 150 FPS. One of the early beta testers, the first FPS numbers we got were about 160 with worker Gen 3s using stock worker-made Nightingale flywheels, 4 of them, and 4 low-key motors from out of darts. And that's quite impressive. He was able to run that the entire day with no issues, no melting, nothing. So I think this is a great blaster. Well, I'm the designer, so if I wasn't satisfied with it, I'm pretty sure I would never have released it. Stay tuned though, there are a few additions I'm going to make to this thing in terms of add-ons. Actually, a bit of a sneak peek for you. Wonder where this could go. Oh, I left the screws in, but wonder where that could go. If you have been following me or in some of the Discord servers I'm in, you probably know what this is, but stay tuned for that. I'm still working on that. Anyway, again, this is the NSK-X, a 2-stage micro flywheeler using Nightingale flywheels, 130 motors that runs off 3S, has a solenoid pusher, select fire with no computer board, all relays. His relatively lower hardware to build, takes Talon mags, and is so slim and nice. I'm Tony. Thanks for watching.